Konnichiwa, I'm John Hornick. Welcome to my Japanese Faves series, where we'll cover every major type of Japanese food. This lesson is Donabe 5, duck breast and pork belly kitchen sink hot pot. I made this hot pot mostly from bits and pieces of food I found in the fridge, hence the name kitchen sink. The key to umami-rich flavor is not so much the individual ingredients. You may be using a different combination of bits and pieces, but what's important is the broth. I used a broth left over from steaming duck breast for my Japanese Faves lesson called Seared and Steamed Duck Breast with Mustard Miso Vinegar Dressing. If you happen to have made that dish, then you already have the Duck Intense starter for the broth for this dish, which blends several pillars of Japanese cooking: dashi, shoyu, mirin, and sake. Hot pot meals cooked in a donabe are often finished with rice or noodles added to the remaining broth after all goodies in the broth have been eaten. This is called shime, which means finishing course. The optional shime for this dish is pre-cooked soba noodles, which go well with the duck. You simply put the pre-cooked noodles into the warm broth, heat them up, and then eat them. But I'm not doing the shime for this lesson. So let's start cooking. All right, now we're going to partially cook the bacon or pork belly, whichever one you're using. Pork belly is basically uncured, unsmoked bacon. Same thing, exactly the same thing. So if you're using bacon, I suggest that if you want to get rid of the smokiness, which I do, I would cut it into pieces that are about this size. They're about 1-inch pieces. Put them in some water, bring them to a boil, let them simmer for about 5 minutes, and then drain them off. Blot them dry before you start to cook them here. That'll get rid of the smokiness. This is unsmoked bacon, or basically pork belly. It's pretty lean, actually, not a lot of fat. So what we're going to do is we're going to partially cook this. All right, I don't want to make it crispy. I don't want it to be flabby. I want it to be somewhere in between. And by the way, I'm cooking it in the same pan that I used to saute the ham. That's one of the ingredients. I didn't show you that because basically you just want to saute the ham until it's beautiful, until it's really nice looking. The only reason that I'm showing you the cooking of the pork belly instead of just cooking it off camera is that I want to show you what degree of doneness we want to do with this, okay? I'm cooking it in the same pan. It's using some of the same fat and flavor that was already in that pan from cooking the ham. Okay, our pork is looking really good here. It's got some nice brown on it, okay? It's not flabby, it is not crispy. It has a nice brown on a lot of the surface on both sides. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this out of the pan and we're gonna blot it, okay? We're gonna just blot off the extra fat, all right? All right, so the next thing we wanna do is to prepare a bowl of ice water that we're gonna use when we sear the duck breast. After we sear it, we're going to plunge the duck breast into this ice water. That's going to halt the cooking, and it's going to remove some of the excess fat. And now we're going to score the duck breast. We've scored the duck breast on some other lessons, the duck breast master recipe, and also on the steamed and seared duck breast recipe. And to score it, we're going to take a slicing knife, sharp slicing knife, and we're going to slice into the skin, or the fat layer, every 1/4 of an inch. We're not cutting down into the meat itself, okay? We're going to do that all along this duck breast. Now, why every 1/4 of an inch? The reason is because after we sear it, we're going to slice it where we have these scores. Okay, there we have it. Scored all along the duck breast, no cutting into the meat, just cutting the skin, the fat layer on top, okay? All right, now we're gonna season the duck breast. And if you've taken my course or watched my other videos, you know that seasoning means always and only salt and pepper, okay? So I'm gonna give some freshly ground black pepper here. I just sprinkled some kosher salt on it. You could also use sea salt, okay? And then you also know I like to pat it in, all right? I'm gonna do both sides. Now we're going to sear the duck breast. First we're going to get our pan hot. I'm putting it on medium heat. Let that get hot. All right, now we're going to sear our duck breast. We're going to put it skin side down into the hot pan. We're going to let it sear for 7 minutes. And since duck has a thick skin, thick fat layer, I'm using a splatter shield. 7 minutes. Okay, been 7 minutes. We're going to pull that duck out of the pan and put it into our ice water. Okay, you can see how beautifully it's seared on the skin side. Okay. All right, now the duck was only in the water for probably about 30 seconds. You just need to have it in there long enough to halt the cooking. Okay. Now what we're going to do is slice the duck along those places where we scored the duck. Okay. Now your duck is going to be probably rare in the middle and on the bottom side. That's fine because it's going to get cooked more in the donabe. Okay, now our duck is cooked. You can see that it is kind of uncooked on the bottom. That's fine. Duck can be treated like beef, so you can eat duck rare or medium rare, but we're going to be cooking it more in the donabe. But we've got a lot of great juices here on the board. I'm going to collect all of those and the duck onto a sizzle plate so we can use those juices later on. Okay, now we're going to mix our broth. And first I have in this bowl the juices that I took off of the cutting board when I sliced the duck. Now we're going to add the steaming liquid. This was the steaming liquid from making the steamed and seared duck breast recipe in my Japanese Faves series. Okay, it's a little over a cup. All right, then we're going to need the shoyu, that's Japanese soy sauce, and the dashi, and then we're going to put in a tablespoon of either tobanjan chili garlic sauce or gochujang. This is chili garlic sauce. All right, and then we're going to mix it up. All right, now we're going to start putting everything into the donabe. All right, and you want to start with your donabe on a cold burner, unless your donabe is rated for being heated on the bottom without anything in it. This one isn't, right? So we need to have things in it, have the broth in it before we heat it up. So first we're going to put in the arugula in the bottom of the donabe. All right. Then we're going to scatter the other ingredients. First, I have the onion. Then I have the broccoli florets. Now I'm going to try to make sure that these are kind of spread out, right, among the among all the other ingredients. Then I have the shallots. The sliced garlic. And then I have the mushrooms. Now I'm going to put in some of the more colorful ingredients. Those are the pieces of scallion greens, the sliced scallions, that's the whites and the greens. A lot of people don't use the greens, but I do. Carrot. Yellow bell pepper. sauteed ham. And your pork belly or bacon, whichever you're using. So we put in all of the ingredients except the duck. Okay, why didn't we put in the duck? Because we don't want the duck to overcook. We're going to put that in later. Right now, we're going to add the broth. Now I am starting this donabe on the stove, and I'm planning to transfer it to a portable butane burner for serving to the guests. But you could do the whole thing on the butane burner, or you can do the whole thing on the stove. It's fine. Now what we're going to do is turn on the heat, and that's going to be on medium heat, and we're going to cover it. We're going to bring that to a boil. You'll know when it's at a boil because steam will start coming out of this little hole in the top of your donabe. Alright, so we're getting a lot of steam out of the donabe lid here. I moved this to a different burner because when I first started, the burner I wanted to put it on was already hot. I didn't want to put it on there, put that on there unless it had the liquid in it. So I've moved it over to the other burner. Now what we want to do is turn down the heat a little bit, let it simmer, and we want to let it simmer until your vegetables are starting to get soft, which they're already starting to get soft. So we're going to let them go for like another 5 to 10 minutes. Actually, I'd say 5 minutes. Okay. Lid on. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes, and the vegetables are getting soft. Okay, good. Now what we want to do is want to arrange the duck around the top. All right, now we're going to cover this and let it cook for just a couple of minutes. We want just to get rid of the redness. Pinkness in the duck is fine. I want to get rid of the redness. I don't want it to be uncooked. I want it to be rare to medium rare. Actually, more like medium because I'll be getting rid of all the redness, so we'll just have pink.